Okay, so for today's video, I have all these 350 valve bodies. These are lock up and they are ready to go. These down here, I've only got one non-lock up left that's ready to go. And then I have these non-lock up 350 valve bodies, but see, look, somebody at some point had robbed some valves out of these. And we need to check them, clean them, and see if they're worth putting valves in. And if they are, I have these 250 valve bodies. But you can tell they're 250 valve bodies because if you look here on the 350, you see that? They don't have that because they don't have a piston in there. I figured the shop cat's supposed to help, but he went somewhere on the other side of this old Corvette. Oh, where'd you find all that? You just made yourself a little bed, didn't you? So while I do all the work, you're just gonna nap on a bed you made. You even figured out how to make one into a blanket, didn't you? Wow. All that intelligence and no drive to get anything done that's useful. What do you got to say for yourself? Wait, here's Smokey the shop cat. Maybe she'll help. Oh, well, guess not. The first thing I want to do is check and make sure these valves work. Hey, shop cat. I'll take an eyeglass screwdriver or pocket screwdriver or a pick and just flick these valves and make sure that they can move. This is one that some of it's missing. Same here, some of this is missing. Some of that valve train is missing. The kick down valve moves freely. All these other valves move freely. So I know this is a fixable valve body if I can replace the missing valves and springs. Which I also checked this 250 valve body to make sure all these valves move and the springs feel good. The donor valves that I'm going to be taking out, which they do. And then I have this other valve body that's missing one piece of valve train, which luckily is different than the two that are missing here. And so I can probably fix both of these two with donations from this one donor 250 valve body. Now, I also checked all of these valves to make sure everything's moving freely and working. And on these 350s, you don't have to worry about it so much. But on aluminum valve bodies with steel valves in them, you do need to take like a really narrow set of needle nose and reach in there and grab the valve and pull up and down, see if there's any slack that way, or use your 90-degree part of your pick. I've got one that's ground down to where it can really sneak in there and pull up and then push down and then pull up and then push down. What I'm doing is on those aluminum valve bodies, I'm looking for slack up and down because they will wear the bores out. Not so much of a problem here with these 350s and the cast iron valve bodies. They just not normally wear out in that way. And I spray something like PB Blaster in there before I start swapping valves around to just make things a little bit easier. You don't have to have expensive punches to do this. And if you're lucky, you'll have access holes in the back here where you can get in behind the pins and push them out with a punch. Even though this has the same casting number as this one right here, this does not have the access holes, which makes it a problem getting to the pins to get them out of there. And the 250 donor valve body, no access holes. Before I go grinding or drilling, I'm going to try something I've done in the past that actually worked. I'm going to tap right here and see if it comes out a little bit, which is right there on the edge. And if tapping here doesn't work, I'm going to tap right here while holding this down. Hopefully gravity will pull it out while I tap it. It's really the vibration I'm looking for here to get it to move. And if I'm lucky, look at that. See, it's starting to move. It's starting to come out a little bit. If I get it out just enough, I can grab hold of it and pull it out. Then I don't have to get the grinder out. Wow, I can really get hold of that. Isn't that crazy how that works? No drilling, no grinding. I have to be careful when I go to pull on this not to push it back down in there. Oh, look at that. Popped right loose. Very lucky I didn't have to fight to get that out. Meaning the sleeve. I don't want to just turn things up and dump everything out, because I also need to know which direction everything's facing. Of course, with a spot like this, that's obvious that goes towards the spring. And there's the spring. And see, this spring has a bigger end and a smaller end. So we needed to know exactly which direction that went. This would go in there. And the spring right there. If we look at the one we're trying to work on, look down in here and you can see the back end of that other piece of the valve, which you can see right here. And this one still has that valve, which you can see here and here. So we're just going to leave that in there. And we're only going to take the parts that we're missing and put them up in here. Because I have this out, I'm going to take some Scotch-Brite to it real quick. Just because I can. Beautiful. Nice. While I've got access, this is just Super Tech brand. Doesn't matter what brand it is, just some parts cleaner. I've got a spray bottle around here with, here it is, transmission fluid in it. Nice new transmission fluid. When I get done doing stuff like this, I soak the valves down with nice new transmission fluid. Keep them from getting any surface rust on them. The brake clean may leave them clean, but it also leaves them naked and unprotected against moisture in the air. Also, any valve anywhere, test it before you proceed. Check and make sure that it can still move around. Look there. What we got there? That needs to be cleaned up too. Get that with some Scotch-Brite. Spray down in that sleeve again. Sure that'll go in and out with nothing but gravity. Maybe a little smack, but not being forced. And it'll move even better once we get everything together and soak everything with good clean transmission fluid. Remember, that goes towards the spring. There we go. Yeah, it takes a little smack to make it go. So I want to get it back out of there again and hit it with the Scotch-Brite again. What are you doing, Tigger? Oh, he is going up in the rafters after a squirrel. That moves as free as can be now. Let me show you. You won't believe this. Tigger, what are you doing? Are you showing off your acrobatic skills? Yeah, squirrels must be getting in there and he's sniffing them out. You don't want squirrels getting in his car collection. So now this right here is where the pin went. So I got to line that up with the pinhole, which as you can see is on offset to this side. So when I put this in there and hold the valve body so the valve stays in here, because I did all that trouble to make sure it would move with nothing but, I almost lost the spring right here. I went through all that trouble to make sure the valve would move with nothing but gravity. So now I've got to hold it up, which means I got to hold this up and put it in this way. If I tip this over and try to tip that over, my valve's going to drop down. I think Tigger's above us. Since that dropped in the floor, I want to make sure there's nothing on it. Anything the size of a human hair can stop a valve from moving. So now we've got to make sure the spring doesn't fall out again and make sure the valve doesn't fall out. So take them and fold them together. Now we've got the spring trapped, that trapped, and where'd that pin go? There's the pin. This has got to line up with that. That spring is pretty strong. Not too much persuasion, because if you have to force it, there's something wrong. Well, that happens sometimes. Stuff went everywhere. But I've got it all. But I do have to clean it all off again. Okay, yeah, that moves really freely. So we're back to where we were. I could see a little bit of a mark right there where I was trying to get the pin down in there, which tells me that I didn't have that pushed in quite far enough, is why it was fighting me. So apparently I was not pushing on it quite as hard as I thought I was. So clean that spot off. This time, really mash it in there. Oof. Oh yeah, it just fell in there easily. See, it's countersunk just a little bit, similar to this one, and without it being pushed in that far, the pin doesn't want to go down. So that's why I say if you're having trouble, maybe tap it a little bit. Don't force it, because if you have to force it, something's wrong. Indeed, something was wrong. It doesn't go flush like these two. It countersinks a little bit before the pin can go down in there. And let's double check, make sure that valve can still free. Feels good. Does it feel kind of the same as this one that we haven't messed it with? Yes, it does. It feels like the same pressure. So, good successful valve change. That was the only one missing in this. So this one, I will double check the valves again. I will clean it real good. I will dry it out real good. I'll double check the valve, triple check the valves at that point. And then I'll soak it with new transmission fluid that I spray down in on the valves so that it can sit on the shelf for a while with no chance of rusting. and I'll blow on it with air to get the excess transmission fluid that I put in there out of it, just so that it has a light coating of transmission fluid on the valves itself, and it'll be on the shelf ready to sell. Meanwhile, I'm going to replace these valves in this, but you've seen how to do it. And I heard Shopcat rustling around in the ceiling above me, and before I go any further, I need to look and make sure he's not going to fall on my head, claws out. Where you at, Shopcat? What are you doing? Want to see some more of my transmission repair videos? I'll put the link to that playlist in the corner here, or here. What are you doing, Shopcat? I gotta go get that critter. Insanely cool cars, tool reviews, and auto repair videos.